Peace and blessings be upon you. I hope you're doing well. So we're back with our Ramadan series. Ramadan is indeed over, but the subject remains to be learned about. So what we have to talk about today, well, before anything, Eid Mubarak. Before anything, Eid Mubarak to those who celebrated today, Eid Mubarak, and to those who celebrated yesterday, Eid Mubarak. Whoever's celebrating tomorrow, Saturday, I'm sorry, but you know, if for those of you who, for those of you who are not, aware of things and you're still just following, then Eid Mubarak to you. As for those who are in positions to who understand that there is a moon out there, then how can I say Eid Mubarak to you when you have clearly rejected the sighting of the moon? So very quickly, I want to say that for me, Eid was Thursday, yesterday, not Friday. Today is Friday here in the United States. Why? Because the moon, although it had not been sighted by the naked eye, the new moon had been born. These days, and even in the past, there is something called astronomical calculation, and there are cameras up in the sky that can tell you that can determine whether the moon is there or not. What determines a new moon is its birth. If its birth is confirmed and proven, then that means we have entered a new month. If you are waiting to see the moon with your naked eye, then you know that someone has performed a calculation and the moon is there, then you have blatantly, or rather you have deliberately fasted an extra day when you shouldn't have had to. And this is what is called a haraj. You have made Allah's religion difficult when it did not need to be difficult. So those of you who are mashayikh or imams, scholars, you will be held responsible for this. This is forbidden. It doesn't matter what your scholars tell you. This is forbidden. If the moon is sighted, if the moon is said to be there, and there is evidence proving it to be so, and the reason you can't see it is because it's so new. It doesn't change the fact that a new lunar month has arrived. In this case, Shawwal. The month of Shawwal has arrived. Ramadan is no longer with us until next year, inshallah, God willing, may we live to see the next Ramadan. That's how it is. As for those who say, oh, well, I didn't see it here in California, but someone saw it in Pakistan, but that has nothing to do with me. It's the same moon. Are you waiting to see another moon? It's amazing how much fitna comes out of this tiny matter. Ridiculousness comes from something so small. You know, people say one person doing Eid this day, one person doing Eid that day. This is something that Allah is not pleased with. And you know that. Oh, but our way this is the right way because this is what it says. Your way is wrong. That's it. Your way is wrong. There's no argument. Your way is wrong. Period. Anyways, so today we're going to be talking about the difference between the moon of fasting and that starts the fasting and the moon that ends the fasting. And we will continue to talk about the moon sighting based on regions. So these, what I'm going to do with my videos, God willing, is I'm going to reduce their length to 20 minutes max. Just to keep people's, attention. But not only that, well, I mean, their attention would probably increase with the content if they're interested in it once they hear a video. But I would rather a person see the video and benefit from it if he saw that it's 20 minutes long. Okay, I'm going to, okay, it's 20 minutes long. I can let's check it out, less than 20 minutes. I mean, these subjects, some of them, require time. We're going through a book. So in any case, so we'll go over, we're still going to talk about the moon, but that's not where things, the whole chapter is not, section is not based on the moon alone. So, without further ado, I begin in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. I praise and I glorify him as he ought to be praised and glorified. Let's begin. So, it appears that Imam al-Shafi'i, made a distinction between the moon of fasting and the moon of cessation of fasting, meaning the moon that indicates that Ramadan has begun and the moon that tells us that Ramadan has ended. He made a distinction, Imam al-Shafi'i. So it seems that it appears that al-Shafi'i made a distinction between the moon of fasting and the moon of cessation of fasting on the basis of suspicion that is associated with people in the sighting of the moon of cessation of fasting, but is not present in the case of the moon of fasting. What it means is that, so Imam Shafi'i, this was mentioned earlier on, Imam al-Shafi'i said, he felt that if someone claims to have sighted the moon, we'll take the testimony of that one person. Now, if one person says that, oh, the moon for the end of Ramadan is here, meaning the moon that tells us Ramadan is over, we shall cease fasting. If it's one person, Imam al-Shafi'i said we cannot take his testimony because he may be trying to just basically cut Ramadan short. So if someone comes and says, oh, I saw the moon, one person, then al-Shafi'i says that out of suspicion. You're not supposed to have suspicion in Islam. Everything is good until proven not good. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So Imam al-Shafi'i's view on this matter is not one that agrees with the Quran. He had made life, if this is indeed what he said, he has made life harder on the people, and he has, you cannot trust. Allah does say in the Quran, إِن جَاءَكُمْ فَاسِقٌ بِنَبَإٍ فَتَبَيَّنُوا. If a fasiq, one who is a severely disobedient person, comes to you with news, then verify. But let's say someone comes and you don't know whether he's a fasiq or not. You assume that he's innocent. And if someone comes and you know that he's not a fasiq, you assume he's innocent. So it cannot just be, oh, I suspect you of being wrong. No. If he happens to be wrong, and you see that then the next day the moon was, in any case. By the way, in the older days, the earlier days, the way that a person could spot the moon is by the naked eye. They may not have had people that specialized in astronomical calculation. They may have had them, but not everyone had those people. So in the case that there was no way to determine if there's a new moon, as we can today, we can determine it on the dot, meaning immediately. But in those days, you had to look up at the sky, you see a crescent, okay, bam. Because those days they didn't have what we have today. That's just the way it is. You make Islam easy. People say, oh, you shouldn't make the Islam easy. You can't just make it easy like that. You can't just pick and choose. If the religion, first of all, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, used to always choose whatever is easier. Well, before that, God always tells us to choose what is to make the religion easy. Second of all, ease is part of this religion. Third of all, if something is easy, but it's the truth, you take it. This is an order by God. If you want to choose a difficult way, then you fall into the path that those who came before us, Jews and maybe Christians, what path they took, which is the difficult path, in my understanding. This is not how the way of the prophets is not one of difficulty, it's one of ease. So it says here that the opinion of Abu Bakr ibn al-Mundhir. Abu Bakr ibn al-Mundhir was one of the early Muslims. I'm not sure if he was a tabi'i or not, but he was familiar with different views. He actually wrote a book about just like this one, including the comparative views on different matters. So we will be talking about different subjects, by the way. So we're going to do fasting, Ramadan, and then we're going to talk about other subjects as well. There's subjects such as marriage, divorce, prayer, purity, etc. So, and it's all organized, and we have different views to choose from. We have different views to learn about. Okay, so Qatada, one of the early Muslims, he said that a person who does not know the differences, the ikhtilaf, the differences of opinion in Islam, he doesn't know fiqh. He doesn't know Islamic laws. He doesn't know Islamic jurisprudence. You have to know the differences. he's correct. You can't just, live off one path, one opinion. That's what this program is for. So, the opinion of Abu Bakr ibn al-Mundhir is the same as the opinion of Abu Thawr. And I believe it is also that of the Zahirites. So, the Abu Thawr, if you remember, he said that it doesn't matter how many people you have who claim to have seen the moon. Abu Thawr was a Shafi'i, but he had his own views. Like he was kind of like he was a Shafi'i and independent at the same time. So Abu Thawr said you don't need to have a certain number of witnesses. It could be one witness for each, for the beginning of Ramadan and for its end. That's what Abu Thawr said. Ibn al-Mundhir agreed with him on this. Ibn al-Mundhir agreed, and Ibn Rushd, the author of this book, says that he believes it's also the opinion of the Zahirites. The Zahirites are basically, I don't know, there must be Zahirites today who are neo-Zahiris, you might call them, but the Zahiris or Zahirites, traditionally they were people, in history they were those who took only from Quran and Hadith, but they did not do Qiyas. Qiyas is just like, for example, there's a narration by the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, which said that, which includes that if there's 3 people, 2 of you should not be whispering. If there are 3 people amongst you, 2 should not be whispering. That's the narration. Now let's say that that there are 3 people, 2 of them are talking in a different language, a language that the third person doesn't understand. 2 of them are speaking in that language, third person doesn't understand, but they're not whispering. They're talking as I am right now. They're talking with an audible voice. Does the same ruling apply? Should those people not be doing that? Qiyas meaning analogical reasoning, says that the same concept applies because it's the same thing. If you're whispering, this guy's left out. If you're speaking in a different language, this guy's still left out. The Zahirites, who I don't think would disagree with what I just said, but they were people who generally disagreed with such. They needed to have evidence for something. You have to clear evidence where it's like, this is what it says, and that's how they interpret it is another story. Now, how they interpret that evidence is something else. But the evidence for it has to be apparent, zahir. That's why they call them the Zahiris, because they go with what is zahir, what is apparent, what you can see. Quran said this, that's what I follow. Hadith said this is what I follow. The athar, what is narrated by other than the Prophet, said this is what I follow. That's what the Zahiris did. So this is what makes what they did. However, though, they did analyze. They weren't just like blind followers. Ibn Hazm was a Zahiri, by the way. For those of you who know, and if you don't, you can look him up. Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri, who was from Andalusia, Al-Andalus. He was from Spain. I don't know if he was Spanish by origin, but he was from there, and that was the area, the land he was born and raised in. So Ibn Hazm, he was a Zahiri. He wrote a famous book, Comparative Fiqh, but mainly I think he was defending his views, and he would just mention other views just to show that there's why they're wrong or why he's right, things like that. So it's called Al-Muhalla. Very, very long book, but it includes, if you ever read books about comparative fiqh, comparative Islamic law, you will see that they refer to his book Al-Muhalla many times. Al-Muhalla and other books as well. This being one of them. This book we're using right now, which I will mention at the end of this. For those of you who want to know which book we're using, it will be included in the bio, and it will be included at the end of the video as well. So it's called Bidayat al-Mujtahid wa Nihayat al-Muqtasid, or in English, the Distinguished Jurist's Primer. The Distinguished Jurist's Primer by Ibn Rushd, the grandson. Ibn Rushd, because there's a grandfather, grandson. Ibn Rushd, the grandson. So Abu Bakr ibn al-Mundhir argued on the basis of this tradition of the occurrence of a consensus for the obligation of breaking the fast and abstaining from eating on the testimony of one person. He So it therefore becomes necessary that the matter be the same for entering into the month and moving out of the month, as both are signs separating the period of non-fasting from the period of fasting. So Ibn al-Mundhir said that basically he argued on the basis that this tradition that talks about the consensus for the obligation of breaking the fast, and meaning that, okay, we can eat now, meaning that it's Eid, and meaning that it's Eid, that Ramadan has ended, and for that ruling which says that Ramadan is here, so, needing people, witnesses and all that, Ibn al-Mundhir says, beautiful dog. So Ibn Mundhir says that, he says that the matter is the same for entering the month and leaving the month, moving out of it. Both are signs of separating the period of non-fasting from the period of fasting. That's what Ibn al-Mundhir said. Let me see here if there's anything. So so Ibn al-Mundhir argued for the testimony of one person. I can refresh your guys' minds. So a man came to the Prophet. There are two narrations. One says that a Bedouin, if I'm not mistaken, it was one man who was a Bedouin, a desert Arab. He came to the Prophet, and he told the Prophet, and he came in the presence of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. And he said, that I sighted the moon tonight. I saw the moon tonight. The Prophet asked him, do you testify that there is no God but Allah, meaning no God but God? Allah means God. And that Muhammad is his servant and messenger. Muhammad in the third person. He's talking about himself, but do you testify that? He said yes. So the Prophet said, Bilal ibn Rabah, known as Bilal al-Habashi, but Bilal ibn Rabah, I prefer to use that. Bilal ibn Rabah, who was the first mu'adhin, the first one to call to prayer, the Muslims to prayer. Prophet Muhammad commanded him to tell the people that Ramadan is tomorrow. We're fasting tomorrow. That was one narration. Second narration said that there were people were fasting on the last day of Ramadan, and two Bedouins stood up. And they testified to the Prophet that they had sighted the moon the previous night. So if the moon was sighted the previous night, the new moon, it means that the following day, fasting or no fasting, when it comes to the end, no fasting. So they said that they saw the moon, because the people were fasting on what they thought was the last day of Ramadan, when two Bedouins stood up and said, we saw the moon last night. So the Prophet told them, break the fast. Actually, no, what happened was, they said the messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, ordered the people to break the fast, go to the place of prayer, meaning we're going to pray Eid now. What time this happened, I don't know, but it could have been Asr time, it could have been, it might have been Asr, might have been Dhuhr, might have been just before Dhuhr. It mentions that, the time of day is not mentioned. But they said that we saw the moon. So it happened to be two at this time, two people. First time it happened to be one person. If I'm not mistaken, that was Abu Thawr's argument. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about. Okay, so that ends our concludes our session for now. Next, we're going to be talking about the if the sighting of a moon in one land, does it apply to those in another land? So those who see the moon in one place, does it work? Does their view or report, does it apply to those who have not seen the moon in another place? So people in, let's just say in America, the moon has been sighted, but in Europe or in Asia or Africa, someplace there, the moon has not been sighted. Can they take that? Can they take the view of one land? Yes or no? We're going to be talking about that next time, God willing. Thank you for joining. I hope you guys have a very happy Eid and a pleasant year in general. Keep the worship up. Ramadan is not the only time we become religious, or spiritual. We're spiritual all throughout the year, God willing, inshallah. Until next time, always peace be with you, and I'll see you next time, God willing.